Well, welcome to class. I am Justin Davis with Bolivar City Fire, and today we are talking about forcible entry. If you have to use the bathroom is in the back door there to your left. If we have to leave in case of emergency, we're gonna go back out the way we came in and up the stairs and out the side door there. Yes. So today we're talking about forcible entry. We can get this where. So we're going to talk about first the basic principles of forcible entry. So what is forcible entry? Forcible entry is techniques used to gain access into a compartment, structure, facility, or site when normal means of entry is blocked or locked. This is lots of places that we go to on a regular. So what's important about forcible entry? What are the things that we should keep in mind? Forcible entry techniques. So, this is, like I said, use gain access when we can't normally just walk in the door. Doing minimal damage. This is a huge sticking point. So, we all that do this job, we like to break stuff. We want to get in quick. We want to, do our job. But doing the minimal amount of damage possible is good for a lot of reasons, more than just the cost to the consumer. We can also think of protecting the doors. If you go to take a door and bust the entire door out, you're now creating an opening that you can't close again. And what does this provide to us then? Quick access to a building. Now, when we talk about forcible entry, this doesn't apply just to structures. This also, we can think about vehicles, rail cars, aircraft, ships. Okay. So, when do we do forcible entry? When ordered to by IC or our supervisor. Again, why? To fulfill tactics. If we can't get into a house, we can't fight the fire. We have to think about the location of the fire is how we're going to get in the smartest way in. Stage of the fire is very important. Because the kind of stage of fire ties into effect on ventilation, because anytime you open a window, anytime you open a door, you're adding extra ventilation spots, which if you're not making quick entry, is going to increase the fire. So, important thing, sticking point, if we're making entry, if we're making forcible entry, we have to make quick entry behind that. So we don't make the fire worse than when we got there. Now, another important thing too is remember effort required to force entry. Most of the techniques we use for forcible entry are not, you're going to be tired. You run a K-12 for a long time of cutting doors, you're going to be tired. So that's an important thing about too with the amount of crews you have and not gassing everyone on this. Again, wait to be ordered to force entry before doing so. This is like anything else that we do on the fire ground. This is also, again, very important. We were talking about costs to the consumer. Things is, we want to go to a fire, bust it down, get in, but we also remember our job is protect property. So we need to be doing the minimal amount. If someone doesn't tell you to break something, don't break it. Okay, forcible entry and ventilation. Now we want to think about location of opening. Adding air to ventilation control fire can affect fire behavior. We're adding more oxygen, we're stoking the fire, making it worse. Again, any entry to a structure is ventilation. So if we're going around opening multiple windows, opening multiple doors, again, adding extra fire, creating a more dangerous situation. Like I said, stoking the fire, which goes to also controlling doors and windows to limit fresh air. Yes.
It says here, it says the location of your opening So are there any like exterior factors that like, you know, outside of the structure fire or whatever like that, that might influence where you want to make
Yeah.
that opening?
Yeah, now, outside of fires, I would think of, if, say, a collision that you're at, and you have to force a door to get into, pull a person out. I'm thinking you're gonna want to assess, the quickest, the quickest egress point for them, but also the safest egress point for them. That's another big thing too, is like, what we do it is obviously protecting, not doing more harm to somebody. So that's a big portion of that. Again, so also controlling doors and windows, we talked about that, about limiting, we don't wanna just go crazy. Ventilating, extra ventilation on any building, on any fire building. So with that comes, so what should we be thinking about when we're going to force entry into a building or anything? Trying before we pry. Always check to make sure our doors are unlocked. Save yourself lots of trouble if the door is just unlocked. Again, saves people from us from breaking other people's things that doesn't need to be broken. Now, on a side to that, we can talk about lock boxes. This is the other thing that we need. We think about when we go to a fire, the first thing we do is a size up. It's really the first thing we do. I mean, almost anything we do, before we do it, we should have a size up. Which, when you go to that door, which we'd be looking for. Like I said, try before you pry, just try, simple trying to open the door. Second thing, looking for lock boxes, knock boxes. Why? Again, it reduces property damage. It's a lot quicker to enter a door through a lock, through a key, than it is through busting it down. And this, when it comes to just your own fire departments.
Yeah, just the other slide. Has there ever been a situation where you've accidentally broken a door or entered a place that you were supposed to?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so that can happen too, even when you have good intentions and bad information, and that's kind of leads to the CAD information. If you look in your CAD system, this is where it should tell you businesses and homes that have key boxes or knock boxes. And that's something you have to do training on too with your departments. Okay. So, other forcible entry considerations. So we're talking about doors and locks, proper tools. Do we have the proper tools? Security barriers, so, are there bars on the windows? Are there old antique bars on the windows? Are we gonna, what are we gonna be able to do to take care of that? So, we're gonna start going over tools. Obviously, the tools on this slideshow are not gonna show every single tool that is available. This is just an overview of the general tools used. So what factors must be considered when deciding where and how to perform forcible entry?
Location of the fire.
Yeah.
Try before you pry.
Yeah.
They got it.
Okay? Yeah, those are good answers. So what structures in your jurisdiction might pose difficult or unusual forcible entry circumstances?
The jail, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah, it's built to keep people in. All the banks. Factories, we have a lot of, and even some of the old buildings. Okay, so I'm gonna describe forcible entry tools. So, it is important to know the capabilities of our tools. That is the manufacturers, what the manufacturers tell us, this is what the tool can do. It's important to know each tool so that you know what each tool does and how to use each tool. And it's also important that when we're using tools to use the appropriate PPE, which depending on tool, that's something else you'll have to know what you need to wear to perform the job. See, always wear your PPE when using forcible entry tools. So here's the 4 categories of forcible entry tools: cutting tools, prying tools, pushing, pulling, striking tools. Now this is important to break them down in in different parts, because we have a lot of them, and they all do different things, and they're not all, you can't use a cutting tool as a striking tool at all times. So it's important to know the different ones and what you can do with them. So the first one we're going to talk about is cutting tools. These are normally powered manually or with another power source, so we think of like the electric, the battery operated. No cutting tool will cut all materials, so there's not a one-size-fits-all. If there was, we would use it. And so that's important to remember too. If you're using a cutting tool, what are you cutting? Is the blade for what you're trying to cut? Why do we do that? Because if you're using the wrong blade, you could damage the tool, you could hurt yourself. So, most basic cutting tool is the pickhead axe, flathead axe. There are also smaller axes and hatchets. They obviously cannot be used for the same amount of work as the pickhead axe or the flathead axe that we normally use, and still use in salvage or overhaul. Or if we're in a position where the regular axe is too big. So first we have the pickhead axe, which is available in 6 to 8 pound heads, and very versatile in what you can use it for. Can be used for forcible entry, can be used for chopping, prying, digging. Is made of hardened steel, so it's tough. Handles are usually made of wood or fiberglass, and again, they can vary in size. And these are used in all different parts of structural firefighting, not just forcible entry. You can, ventilation, taking walls in rooms. There's lots of jobs that you can do with axe. You can use them on anything from shingles to wood to aluminum siding, roofs. And the pickhead, which is hard to see from here, the pickhead axe can also be used to make purchase points. It's something that you're trying to punch through, even if you need to make yourself a hole to then put a prying tool in there to wedge it or to get room inside of it. It can also be used to break windows. We think that pickhead axe, put it through the bottom side of the window, clear it out. So the flathead axe has the same uses as the pickhead axe, obviously. It's just missing the pick, so then since you don't have the pick, that flathead side then can be used as a striking tool. Again, we were talking about taking windows, bashing holes in floors. Again, this is used all over structural firefighting. So we want to talk about metal cutting devices. So here's a couple of options. You have bolt cutters, cutting torches, rebar cutters. These are used for cutting different types of metal, used to cut through heavy locks, metal clad doors, window security bars and grills, So we have bolt cutter, which used to cut bolts, iron bars, pins, cables, hasps, chains, and some padlock shackles. Some, because of its case hardened, you're not gonna cut it with a pair of bolt cutters. So, and basically, if you try to cut into a case hardened lock, you're gonna shatter it. There's also, you know, the locks themselves, some are designed to prevent anyone from using bolt cutters to cut them. So obviously that wouldn't be useful. We have to remember again, always the right PPE. So you're wearing, when you use bolt cutters, always wear face shields and eye protection during fragments. You know, if you're cutting into metal, there's gonna be metal pieces flying. So you need to protect your eyes. Also a safety note is do not use bolt cutters to cut energized cables. They're not grounded. You'll be zapped. So, next one in there is torches. So the different torches that are common are oxyacetylene cutting torches, gasoline cutting torches, burning bars, plasma cutters. Again, you want to train on that, on the cutters, or pretty much you're gonna train on everything, that all the tools we see here to manufacturers' recommendations to each tool. Now, when we talked about PPE and safety, when you're using any cutting torch, you're gonna wanna have a hose line so that you can cool any metal that you're cutting, or you could control sparks of, you know, we don't wanna make more fire. Again, safety hazard. Do not use cutting torch in a flammable atmosphere for obvious reasons. We don't wanna blow ourselves up. So we also have hydraulic cutting tools. There's powered and manual versions of these. The manual versions, they require the energy is coming from us to put into it. So it's more intensive on us, more likely to wear you out when you use it. Now the positive of them is that they are more easily taken in places with you. Whereas a powered hydraulic cutting tools, you're strapped to the machine, your machine is strapped to the hydraulics. You only have so far you can go with that. Now these can be used to cut through steel reinforced bars, in concrete walls, doors, or window security bars. And then we get to hand saws. So first we have the hacksaw, and there's a drywall saw and a keyhole saw. So these may be useful, again, if you're in a spot that you can't bring anything bigger. You can't bring a chainsaw, so you have a hacksaw. So you need to know which blade is best suited. If you're cutting wood, you need a wood blade. Cutting metal, you need a metal cutting blade. You also need to use good handsaw technique when using one of these. So that leads us into power saws. Here we have circular rotary saw, reciprocating saw, chainsaw, which is all in the pictures. The power sources for these, again, pretty obvious. Self-contained battery packs, gasoline engines, electricity from generator or outlet. So we have to the next slide. So again, with power saws, like all these tools, we need to be familiar with the saws that you have available to you. Following the manufacturer's recommendations and our SOPs, always wearing your PPE, never forcing a saw beyond its design limitations, which can result in property damage or injury. So again, that comes down to the first one, being familiar with your saws and their uses. If you don't know what it's used for, ask. Again, never use a power saw in a flammable atmosphere. You don't want to explode. That would be bad. Okay, making situations worse. And it's not, like when we talk about the using it in a flammable atmosphere, you know, especially, you know, you're using a saw, it's cutting, if you're cutting metal, or even if you're cutting wood and you don't know what's in that wood, there could be, you know, you hit a nail in wood and create sparks, that would be a bad day. So again, you need to wear proper PPE and never saw beyond its limits. Follow the manufacturer's recommendations. That's the mantra. Probably, again, I bet you shouldn't use it in a flammable atmosphere. Why? Because sparks can cause explosions. So this is why we have a charged hose line, a portable fire extinguisher, in case of emergency. Never use the saw to cut the shell of the storage tank. Don't be cutting into propane tanks or tanks that have explosive stuff in it. That's dumb. Also, the blade guards on some rotary saws are not designed with the use of carbide tips. Again, know your saws, know the blades that are on the saws. Okay, that takes us to prying tools. So, useful for prying. Opening doors, windows, locks. You moving heavy objects, you get under it, move stuff. Pry bars over there, manually operate tools, use the principle of lever and fulcrum to provide mechanical advantage, and that's what we're talking about, moving heavier stuff. You get mechanical advantage under it, you can move something a lot easier than you would be able to on your own. Force applied tool's handle is multiplied at working end based upon distance between fulcrum and working end, which means it's giving you more power. The longer the handle, the greater the force between the fulcrum and the working end. So then we go to, so what are different prying tools? And there we see the door acting as the fulcrum, and this is the force he's exerting to pop the door in. So he's using mechanical advantage to get in entry.
So does that mean that we'd wanna use like a really long pike pole?
No. Pike pole is not a prying tool.
Oh, okay.
So, and that's something we're gonna talk about a little bit later too, with not using cheater bars. And, you know, we're talking about that, not using tools beyond what they're for. And so, yeah, so you're not gonna wanna use a push-pull tool as a way to try to break into something. You will have a Bluetooth device at that point. So here's some different manual prying tools. Crowbars, killing tools, flat bars, pry bars. I mean, really, we're using Halligan tools, crowbars. Those are probably the two most popular ones right now. There's also hydraulic prying tools, and they receive power from hydraulic fluid pumped through special high pressure hoses, which you don't really see. So these are good. You can use a hydraulic tool. What you see here, he is pushing the door frame in, and then you just push the door out. So he's gonna break the door frame to get through the door. compressed air is sometimes used to power hydraulic pumps, electric motors, or 2 to 4 cycle engines are more common. And then there's also the mechanical or manual hydraulic tools. Which again, we were talking about that before with mechanical hydraulic tools. They're easier to use in the sense that they're going to be smaller, easier to carry with you, more exertion out of you, but easier to take in. Again, hydraulic spreaders can exert force to spread something or pull heavy objects, and hydraulic rams, their spreading capabilities, they do push things out. But they can be used for pushing or pulling. You can place a hydraulic ram, which you see that right here. It's the hydraulic ram. Inside a door frame, you use rams to spread frame far enough apart for door to swing open. And then you also have hydraulic door openers that are manually operated, which is on the right. Relatively lightweight, consists of hand pumps and spreader. Spreader has the intermesh teeth that can be easily slipped into a narrow opening. And we're talking about, narrow opening, so this is either as a door, so it's narrow enough to fit in there, in between the door and the jamb. A few pumps to the handle cause jaws to spread open, exerting pressure on the object to move. So you're getting it in there, adding pressure, and it's just pushing it further and further out. Which then can cause the door to fail, and then you can make entrance. And again, because it's easier to carry that little tool with you, it's going to be faster for you to take that tool with you if you have to multiple doors going through. Now we get to the pushing, pulling tools, pipe poles, drywall hooks, San Francisco hook, a rubbish hook. That is not, that is a roof hook. And again, these are limited use, so we're talking pushing, pulling tools. You need to know what these tools do and when to use them. So what can we do with these? Breaking glass, opening walls or ceilings. So we're thinking about like pipe poles, pulling down ceiling, shoving in, pulling down. Same thing, window, it said windows. You have a long pipe pole, you can reach up to a window that you normally couldn't reach, take it out. And they come in various different sizes. So again, this comes down to knowing what you need to use it for. Am I gonna need a small pipe pole because it's easier to get inside with a small pipe pole? Am I gonna get it more the ceiling? It doesn't have 15-foot ceilings, and now you need a large pipe pole to do the same job. So it's, like I said, they give reach advantage. Then the plaster hook hat, which is right there, has 2 knife-like wings. Push. So the only tool that can be used in here for other than pushing and pulling is the all metal roof hook. Why? Because it's made out of stand metal. Everything else here, if you try to use it to pry, it's like you have to look for your weak points. This is not a solid piece. This is the handle with the hook attached on. So if you use that to pry, it's either gonna break your handle or rip off your hook. So again, that's where it becomes important to know what your tools do, what not to do with your tools. So we have striking tools, which are basic hand tools, consisted of weighted head attached to a handle, as you see, other than the battering ram punch. Again, all these have different jobs. So it's important to know what each does, so you can use it correctly for the job that you're trying to accomplish. The dangers with these, that you can crush fingers, toes, other body parts if you drop it or you use it incorrectly. You don't want to smash your fingers. And also, while in use, while you're hitting something, it can create chips or splinters that fly in the air. So again, proper PPE, you're going to be wearing eye protection when using these, along with everything else that you're wearing. And so in this too, you see the battering ram. You know, like we know sledgehammers and mallets, you're using hammers, you're using that to push your way into somewhere, break something out, put holes in the floor. Battering ram, which I always wish we could use, but I've never used one, just busted in doors, taking out holes, putting holes in walls. You can use them to force doors. Now the downside of the battering ram is they're heavy, so they're 30 to 40 pounds. So that's gonna be hard work slamming that thing around. They're made of steel with installed handles and handguards. One end is for breaking concrete blocks. The other end is rounded and smooth for battering doors and other types of walls. 1 to 4 firefighters holding attached handles can swing ram back and forth into a wall or door to create a breach. So now we can talk about combination tools. So tools that are normally stored together. So again, no tool does it all, because if it did, we would have it, and we would have a whole lot less tools if we had one tool that did everything. So you have here, you have your set of irons. So it's your axe and your halogen bar. These two go together. There's a lot you can do with a set of irons, right? Because you have a cutting tool, you have a prying tool, you have almost every type of tool is right here. So this will be able also to give you leverage to handle different situations that you come upon. So yeah, so the irons are is the axe and the halogen bar. It's usually a flathead axe. Like I say, can be used in so many different things. That's why they fit together. The other way we call it is a married set. This is a safe grab. I'm sorry, just hearing that. This is a safe grab though, if you're going and you're like, I don't know what I need. Right here, this is a safe choice. It gives you a lot of different options for what you're trying to accomplish. So, what are 5 of the tools most commonly used for forcible entry? Elegant. That's my go-to. Battering ram. Yeah. I would love to have a battering ram.
Mm-hmm.
Kelly hook.
Yeah.
Crowbar?
Crowbar, yeah. Alright. You've been doing this for a minute, so why don't you guys take a 5-minute break? Yeah. I have to keep recording.
Is it break?
they did basically a little test where, they masked up. So, if you're one of those firefighters who likes to mask up before you're ready to breathe from your SVA, please breathe. Today, we did a small drill that included measuring the breathing air inside of the regulator opening of the Scott AV 3000 SCBA mask that we had while breathing outside air. What we found was that after a 30-second period of physical exertion, the oxygen levels inside the regulator opening dropped below acceptable breathing air levels. So it's like 19%.
Yeah.
Progress that they're showing. This also resulted in a reading of 94% on fingertip pulse oximeter when placed on the firefighters. So, yeah,
Well, that's tough, you need to.
pretty much. In case you didn't hear that, Tommy, some people did like a quick little test and they figured out that if you put your mask on before you're ready to clip your regulator in, that after 30 seconds of physical exertion, the amount of air that's actually in that little space that you would usually clip into is actually like 19%. They measured it at 19% where it's supposed to be like almost 21%. So it literally creates an oxygen efficient environment that you're trying to breathe out of when you're trying to get started off. So.
Alright, let's hit it. Alright, so considerations, what we need to be thinking about for forcible entry safety. Forcible entry is dangerous. Using tools is inherently dangerous. For strains, sprains, fractures, abrasions, lacerations. So we're thinking about cutting ourselves, hitting our foot with a hammer. So what do we need to do to prevent? We're not ever gonna get rid of them all, but we need to always wear your proper PPE, use only undamaged tools. Selecting the right tool, which I feel like those go together really well, because selecting the right tool, if you're not using the right tool, most likely you're gonna damage the tool. And then leaving damaged tools on the truck. Using tools for their intended purpose only. Position yourself so your weight is balanced on both feet. So you're not gonna be chainsawing, hanging out on one leg, lose control and put a chainsaw into yourself. Bad news. Ensure you have the room to operate the tool properly. Super important. You're gonna bring a big old tool to a little old room. Other things to think about, ventilation. Are you using a chainsaw in a closed room, not on air? Bad news. Be aware of sudden release of energy when the door or wall is opened. Physics, or putting pressure on something, or trying to force something open. So when it does open, that force has, the force you're exerting has to go somewhere, and it's gonna keep going through. So again, be wary of when the door gives, so you're not falling in. Ensure other personnel are out of the immediate area. Don't be working on top of each other with a bunch of chainsaws. Make sure everybody knows where everybody is. I mean, that in itself is, for everything we do, should be in our heads. Knowing who's in your vicinity, dangers that can come up from what you're doing, what you could do to create less danger for the people around you and yourself. And again, be aware of the environment. You don't wanna, like we were talking about earlier about using saws in a flammable area, bad news. Don't wanna light yourself on fire, don't wanna cause an explosion. Tool safety. Again, number one, make sure you are aware of what the tool can do, what it's supposed to do. Keeping tools in a designated spot. You take a tool off of the truck, when you're done using it, you clean it, you're making sure everything's topped off on it, you're putting it back in that same designated spot, so everyone knows where it's at. Making sure tools are secured. You know, I think about tools in our truck. If you have unsecured tools, you're gonna, you know, whoever's driving the truck pulls out and everything falls over, again, it can cause more damage to the tools, more damage to the truck. Repair or replace damaged tools immediately. I think with that, you need to think about also, if you're using a tool and you realize it's damaged or you damage it, to immediately take it out of service. Making sure no one else can use it to hurt, you know, so they don't hurt themselves. Do not strike a tool's handle. Do not use a prying tool as a striking tool unless designated to do so. Again, use a tool for what it's supposed to be, by the manufacturer's standards. Now this is important too, when we're talking about, you know, prying into a door. So you think about it, Halligan bar is this big. You get a cheater bar and throw it on the end of that, you have even more room to pry it, but that's not like how that was designed to have that cheater bar on there. You know, the way that you can hurt yourself as a kid. So don't use tools for what they're not supposed to be used. Don't try to push them past what they can do. Here we talk about power saw safety. We need to remember to use extreme care when using power saws. They're dangerous by nature. Spinning blade death, especially that. We need to remember that we're matching the saw and the saw blades to the job that we're doing. Don't use the blade for something outside of the specification. Again, don't use the saw outside the specification. Always wearing full PPE, see here. And then fully inspecting saw before and after use. So making sure it's all topped off of fluids, making sure the blade's still good, making, you know, going through all those things. Keep you safe, keep other people safe. So again, we're not using saws in flammable liquids or a flammable atmosphere. Yeah. It should be kind of common sense. We're not trying to make the situation worse. But this is also on us, because someone might send us in to do a job without knowing that, you know, we don't have x-ray vision. So someone could say, hey, go in that house and go in that room and cut something open. Well, you go in there and the whole floor is gasoline. Don't do it.
Can you just use like any blade with any saw, period, or?
No. So that's also important that you have the right type of blade for the right type of saw. Same thing with chainsaws. You have the right chain for the right chainsaw. Again, you have to go by what the manufacturer tells you to do. It's about using the right, always using the right tool, the right parts to get the job done.
Stuff it.
Yeah. And this is a big one, because that's like everything we do is following manufacturer's guidelines for operation. So again, be self-aware, look for hidden hazards. Use only blades approved for your saw. Remember, when you're cutting with a rotary saw, you're gonna have to account for it twisting. Starting cuts at full RPMs, that's what we're talking about. You're not gonna put the blade, like if I'm cutting this, I'm not gonna rest the blade on there and start it, right? It's gonna kick. So you get it up to full RPMs. So once you have the blade always spinning, that's where you're gonna make your cut through. Again, store blades in clean, dry environment. Store composite blades where gasoline fumes will not accumulate because that will cause them to deteriorate. What action can a firefighter take to stay safe while performing forcible entry? Appropriate PPE. PPE. Right.
school for the right job.
Yeah.
Making sure they're aware of their surroundings and anybody in their immediate vicinity.
Yes. Okay. Talking about the proper way to carry forcible entry tools. So we have big head axe combined tools, that's what we're talking about, with the irons and a pike pole. Remember, we're lifting with legs, we're not lifting with our backs. Don't wanna hurt our backs. We're not running with tools. We are remembering, so the different recommended safety for the different tool sets. So the axe, you're not carrying it, I mean, if you're carrying it and it's not in a scabbard, you know, if it's not covered, you're carrying it, holding onto the pick of the axe on your underarm. Never carrying it on the shoulder. Why? If I'm in full gear with my pack and my helmet on, my peripheral vision has cut down pretty immensely, and I can't see what's behind me when I'm swinging the axe behind my head. The prying tools, we're gonna carry them with pointed or sharp edges away from the body, which can be difficult because, you know, you have multiple sharp sides of that tool set. But the good news is, you know, they're strapped together, so that's another way to keep it together. Pike poles and hooks, where we're carrying with the head down outside. So if something happens, you know, you're sticking it in the ground, not in your toe, not in someone's head. These are dangerous because they're long and they're unwieldy, they're huge. Again, with the axe, the same thing I said, you're not swinging it off your shoulder. You don't wanna have, you know, a 20-foot pike pole and you have 6 feet of it right here. You got 15 feet behind you, 14 feet behind you, swinging around. Again, personal accountability, knowing you're kind of watching what you're doing to keep everyone safe. And then we have sledgehammer over here. So when we're carrying striking tools, tight grip at the top. You're not, why? Because the dangerous part is the heavy head. You don't want to drop that on your foot. Power tools. So we're not supposed to carry a power tool more than 10 feet that's running. And you see again, it's kind of the same idea as bike poles. You know, the part that can hurt you is the blade, most likely. Point it down, so if something happens, you fall, it's going down in the ground. Another thing to think about when you're carrying power tools, the chainsaw, is that the gas cap's on tightly, and you're not just walking around leaking all your fuel out, creating another hazard. Okay. So how should each of the following tools be carried? Axis, prying tools, pike poles, striking tools, power tools.
With picks and sharp edges away from you.
Yeah. I mean, they're all different tools, but it's kind of a generalized, you want all the sharp stuff. That's, if it's gonna poke you, you want that facing the ground. So if something happens, it goes into the ground and not into you. Can you go pause that for me for a second, Kevin?
Pausing.